Hello, and welcome to another episode of Supreme Commander Shenanigans. It's been a while, but I've been meaning to get to one of these for ages now. This is, of course, Supreme Commander Forged Alliance, featuring the Forged Alliance Forever lobby. If you have Supreme Commander, I recommend you go and you get that lobby. It's pretty great. If you don't have the game at all, I recommend you get the game. I think it's a fun game, unless you're not into RTS games, in which case, don't get the game. It's an RTS. So, let's start with the map that we're on. I like this map very much because it encourages very aggressive play. It is called Winter Duel, and it is a teeny tiny little map with only one lane that you can attack other players through. You would think that might promote crap like building defensive positions at a single choke point, but you'd be wrong because this is Supreme Commander. That would be stupid, you will die! No, the only thing you can really do on this map is kill each other. So, as for our players, on the west we have a Cybran. The Cybran, of course, being the underdogs of this game's setting. They're working hard to survive in a universe that doesn't understand them, and most misunderstood of all is Flynn, who is fielding for his people. To the east, we have an Aeon player. The Aeon are known most prominently for their worship of aliens. It is a very confusing and misguided religion. They never really say what's so great about the aliens, but Nekwalich is a strong believer. So, according to the score, neither of these players are in the higher tiers. They're somewhere more in the average range, so this is going to be what you'd expect to see from a typical Supreme Commander game. Anyway, there are not a lot of resources on this map, so most games played here tend to stay around the first tech tier. You might get to the second tech tier, but it's a bit of a gamble. Reason being, as you upgrade, you're not spending as many resources on your military, so the other guy might actually build up and just punch right on through. Then you've got to write a bunch of letters home to families, and everyone's really mad at you, and maybe you have to go before a judicial committee, so people tend not to do that. Instead, they rely a lot on their ACUs to aggressively hold that center position. An ACU is incredibly potent and becomes an army unto itself. The ACU is the big commander robot, by the way, for those who are unfamiliar with the game. There are various differences between the ACUs of every faction, with the most notable for Cybrans being that their ACU is made of tinfoil. The Cybran ACU has the least health of any faction, whereas the Aeons on the other side are pretty good. All ACUs are capable of upgrading their weapons and their health, but the Cybrans don't really get anything specially good until the stupid late part of the game. The Aeon, on the other hand, can get shields, weapon upgrades, health upgrades, whatever it is that they need. You could call this a sort of asymmetrical balance, where the balance is asymmetrically in favor of the Aeon ACU for most of the middle part of the game. Now, it may sound like I'm grousing, because I was just grousing, but the Cybrans have their own advantages. The Cybran units are fast, and also sometimes a little bit fragile, but more importantly, fast. The Cybran Spiderbot can zip around, run into the enemy base, and spray paint dicks all over everything. And also, sometimes, let our people go, because that's what the war is actually about. I mean, it gets the same results, really. Nobody ever lets our people go. The other factions are terrible. Terrible in the moral sense, anyway. I say the Cybran units are fragile, but actually the Aeon tanks are even more fragile, having about half the health of the Cybran Spiderbots. Aeon tanks are also helplessly slow, but they have a very long range. This allows the Aeon to kite their opponents, and they can make better use of point defenses because they can fall their units back behind the point defenses and still fire from that position. So, it looks like Flynn has taken the first move in this little foray. Here he goes, he leans in for the kiss with the bomber. Oh no, wait, that was a bomb. Goodness, Flynn, how very forward of you. However, Nekwalich says my heart is taken. It belongs to silly aliens. It looks like Nekwalich saw the bomber on the way over and started building a response. The single bomber loops back around, and oh, would you look at that, there's a couple AA cannons down there now. Boy, those weren't there before. He peppers a couple of the power generators on his way back, but does no real damage, and down he goes to the floor. One bomber in exchange for one engineer. Nekwalich got the better deal on that one, but he says, hey, I can even this out. Here come a bunch of tanks for your ACU to shoot. See, when the ACUs get involved, you wind up in a funny situation where it's a terrible idea to attack, but if you don't do something, your opponent might do something. The idea is, moving those tanks out to attack the ACU lets that player know that, hey, if you leave this area, I'm gonna just advance. The ACU is one of the most useful and versatile units on either side of the army, so if you force it to sit there and stand guard, well, you've wasted a lot of potential. We can see Flynn back here working on adding another land factory. Like I said, the Cybran are really going to rely on their basic units rather than their ACU in this match, so he's got to get more stuff out there. Meanwhile, Nekwalich is trying to upgrade his ACU. He's got it parked there on the front lines because it can shoot while it's upgrading, but it can't move around. However, unlike Flynn, Nekwalich is not actually producing any units, so the fear of seeing Flynn's ACU just standing there causes Nekwalich to abandon and fall back. Oh god, did you see that ACU just standing there? He was all covered in spikes, and between you and me, I think he might have worshipped the devil. But it looks like Nekwalich's tank friends have shown up, and he doesn't want to look silly in front of the guys, so he presses back. Now, for whatever reason, Flynn is relying a lot on mobile artillery. The Cybran mobile artillery has a pretty wide area of effect, so they're decent for attacking crowds of enemy units. However, there is no crowd whatsoever near Nekwalich, or in his base. In fact, I count a scant 3 tanks. And as it is, those tanks have an advantage in terms of range. That means that Flynn is forgoing his advantage in terms of mobility and health to get a teeny tiny, insignificant advantage in range. Obviously, Flynn is playing mind games. He's trying to lure Nekwalich into a sense of false security. And when the time comes, he's gonna wind up for a great big haymaker punch. Nekwalich is just over there saying to himself, hey, I'm doing okay with just a single ACU and like 3 tanks. I guess I could probably upgrade all my mass extractors, or take a nap. But that's when Flynn'll get him. It's that age-old story of the tortoise and the hare, and here he comes, a couple spider bots mixed in there. And actually, the trouble is, Flynn's approach isn't wrong exactly. It's just that he's not making the best use of this artillery build. Those artillery actually have the same health and same speed and roughly the same range as the Aeon tanks being used by Nekwalich. The fact that those tanks are practically artillery by themselves should speak some volumes about the way the Aeon play in the early game. But one thing to note about the Aeon is that their tanks are more accurate and fire more frequently than those artillery do. That means that there's only one way for that artillery to gain an advantage. They've got to bait and retreat, bait and retreat. What Flynn should do is build a point defense, advance the artillery forward, pepper the enemy with explosives, then fall back to his point defense. And oh no, it looks like Nekwalich is punishing Flynn for his lack of anti-air defense. He's got a squadron of bombers over there and they're dropping their stupid EMP bombs on everything. I hate those things. It would appear the basic generators have all been wiped out. They're volatile and they were built in a line, so when they explode they hurt one another. Makes them very easy targets. You've always got to stagger your power grids. The hydrocarbon plant goes up in flames and that's it! Flynn is officially sucking wind through a straw. That was just a devastating attack. Now this is really bad for Flynn. When you don't have power, your base cannot do anything. You aren't producing mass, you're not building units, you can't fire your overcharge cannon, you are screwed. Now Flynn has got some real tactical trouble to look at. He basically dumped all his money into these artillery and then didn't use them very effectively. Meanwhile, Nekwalich has been playing something of a lazy game, but you might also generously call it a lean game. He's consistently had a pretty small army, but he keeps his tanks behind his ACU. And of course that's another possibility. I suggested using a point defense, but your ACU also serves as a great rally point. He's now got a factory at Tech 2, and you can see here he's upgrading his ACU. And he's finally got the time to do it without being harassed by Flynn's troops. Like I said at the beginning, this is a map that promotes very aggressive play, but it's also very stressful. You've got to keep track of a lot of things non-stop, and it's easy to lose your footing. When you've got a bit of a lull like this, you're probably at a tipping point. It looks like Nekwalich has got a T2 engineer out on the front, building up a T2 point defense. Those have a longer range than the T1 artillery. I don't know if it's what I would choose to build. I mean, I guess when you're thinking under pressure, the first thing you think is, I know, I'll build a big gun! But back there on that ridge, it's really not going to provide that much force projection. It looks like Flynn has mostly rebuilt his power infrastructure and is making a push right now because he's pretty sure his opponent is reaching Tech 2. Well, commendable intuition, Flynn, but I have a concern. It is as thus. Your push seems a little bit half-hearted, and also your ACU is kind of doing it by himself. See, this is how you know the Cybrans are the good guy faction. This ACU is willing to take all the enemy fire like a champ. He's not gonna ask the artillery to come up here and back him up. That would be dangerous. Instead, he's gonna build a point defense. Oh, no. Instead, he's going to build walls around where a point defense would be. Yes, Nekwalich, still working on his devious counterpoint defense. These darn things are expensive. Look at this crap. Gonna pull a whole bunch of engineers over here to get this thing built faster. I mean, for goodness sake, the enemy is right there. It would be nice if we could shoot him. What would they call one of those things? Something that you could pick up and you could move it to where the enemy is and then shoot the enemy with it. Oh yeah, an army. Crap, I wish I had one of those. We see Flynn here falling back because by gum, I'm gonna have a point defense one way or the other. No need to press an advantage against an opponent without an army. I mean, that's good, guys. Just take some time to build a stationary defense. I'm sure the ass end of the battlefield thanks you for that protection. I know it sounds a little self-contradictory to recommend building a point defense and then sass them for building point defenses, but I meant they should build them early when the armies were small and would be easily halted by a point defense. Now seems a little late to get started on this. We've got Nekwilich secure in the knowledge that his point defense is protecting kinda the area sorta near where he's at, is upgrading his ACU again. Now there's quite a number of things that could take out that point defense safely, gunships, bombers, you name it. If you were very safety conscious, you could probably build a wall, like a fence around the radius of the point defense, and that way your soldiers would know not to walk within firing distance of it. That's my favorite thing about enemy point defenses, is that you don't have to walk within their firing range. Usually, there are some notable exceptions. So, interesting fact, it appears that Flynn has now bombed all engineers in Nekwilich's base. Nekwilich cannot rebuild anything. Nekwilich also has a substantially smaller army. It would seem that Flynn has decided to celebrate by upgrading his own ACU, using the spider bots to hasten the process, which is kinda nice. It takes a while to really learn that you can make use of that. The Cybran spider bots are like little engineers. Now the thing is, this is great and all, but the Aeon ACU is a lot more dangerous when it's upgraded than the Cybran ACU, as we established previously. I'm not sure who to really harp on in this game, though. I mean, Nekwilich has been playing well, he's got better micro, but his whole macro strategy just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Meanwhile, Flynn's micro has been struggling, but his macro is okay. Really though, the whole strategy of get to Tech 2, build a Tech 2 point defense, lose all my engineers, just seems really weird to me. Why would you do that, Nekwilich? Why would you rush to Tech 2 to build a stationary point defense? A tactical missile launcher, sure, but a stationary point defense, that just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you could have upgraded your mass extractors, had a better economy, built a big army compared to what you've got now, like doubled the size maybe. 12 tanks instead of 6, but no, you rushed the point defense. On the bright side though, at least it's getting some use, as Flynn pushes further than he's ever been able to get before. Boom, 1 unit at a time. Low damage per second on that thing, really not making that much of an impression. This compared to Nekwilich's freshly upgraded ACU, which is rapidly tearing through Flynn's army. That thing now has a range exceeding Flynn's artillery, a ridiculous rate of fire, and it can kill those units in just a few hits. Meanwhile, where's Flynn's ACU? Well, on the retreat, because that thing is made of tissue paper. However, Flynn does destroy that point defense, and calls for the retreat. Take that, Nekwilich! I bet you feel really dumb now. You'll rue the day we built this mobile artillery, which cannot escape your reprisal anyway because it's slow. And it looks like Flynn was kinda half-heartedly making that retreat because he only moved them back far enough that they couldn't retaliate to being killed. But to be fair, that was sort of a battle that nobody won. Flynn lost his whole army, and Nekwilich lost his T2 point defense and never had an army in the first place. So, kind of like a fair trade. I'm really not sure what I would recommend to Flynn at this point. Neither his ACU nor his armies can get past Nekwilich. I suppose he could fall back and start focusing on his economy. If Nekwilich doesn't press forward, that could work, but it's kinda risky. It may be his only shot though, because he's gotta get something beneath his feet. Nekwilich will also outrange any point defenses that Flynn builds. You could always try gunships, I guess. Although it's a bit late for that. Maybe just drop everything and start spamming gunships! All engineers on assisting gunships! Actually, there's not really much in Nekwilich's base that could stop it. Just a little more airplay from Flynn might have done some good. This poor T1 point defense, being punished just for existing. Its life has been short but full of cruel and senseless punishment. Why, Flynn? Every point defense you've brought to life this game has died. Just to remind those watching, I feel like it's important to bring up that the object of this game is to kill the other player's ACU. That object is now advancing with the force of an army by itself, pretty much completely unassisted, towards Flynn's base. You know that things have gone a little bit south when the only thing that you're supposed to kill is working alone, moving towards your base, and it is still a disaster. The army says, oh my god, that one guy we're supposed to kill is coming to us, to our base to visit with the gun, and oh my god, somebody save us. It's like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Once I kill your leader, I will become your governor. The protagonist is even a robot. This is ridiculous. Just throw stuff at him, anything. Get the teacups. Throw the teacups at him. Kitchen sink. Whatever we got. We can see that even in spite of his one-sided rampage, Nekwalich is still building tactical missile defenses. This is always a must. It's just one of those things you never want to get caught by tactical missiles when you're not expecting. Tactical missiles can wipe out an entire base. You've got to plan for them. And if you're not playing Aeon, you've always got to build those defenses in pairs. Don't forget this. At this point, it looks like the only thing preventing Nekwalich from walking up on that ridge and just kicking Flynn with a giant metal boot is the fact that Flynn can produce men faster than Nekwalich can kill them. I think this is the part of the movie where the producers realize they haven't filmed enough to really go to print, so they just have Arnold Schwarzenegger stand in a doorway and shoot people for 20 minutes. You can see some really serious desperation here as Flynn lays out plans to build 3 point defenses. Under almost any circumstance, this would be a huge overinvestment. They take a lot of time and resources to build, and then once they're done, they're not going anywhere. Also, those are laser-based, so they're likely to shoot the hill. This is not a well-planned strategy. This is a last, desperate hurrah. Also to note, there are a bunch of spider bots just standing around when they could be assisting that structure. It may be desperate, it may be hopeless, the enemy ACU may just blow it up with an overcharge, but hey, you know, be committed to it. I feel like if the spider bots can't be useful in combat, they may as well be handy. I think that was a Red-Green Show thing. If the women don't find you handsome, at least they can find you handy. You know, never obsolete, spider bots. But oh no, it looks like Flynn's troops have finally thinned out enough for Nekwalich to feel comfortable moving forward. Hope waning, sadness encompassing all things. You do still have to admire the composure of Flynn's troops, though. They're all up there in formation, standing in a nice row. I mean, when they die, it's gonna be real pretty. Look at that. Perfect rectangle. It's beautiful. Although it looks like some of the troops are still being ordered to move forward and just get killed. I kinda wonder if maybe Flynn isn't shooting himself in the foot here. These games have a way of turning around, and Nekwalich has been pretty much by himself all this time. What if Flynn surprised him with a great big army all at once and just killed him? You know? It looks like Nekwalich has decided to build another T2 point defense because, I mean, why not? I guess things are kinda sewn up. Whereas Flynn has decided to build hoplites, which are long-range rocket bots. I don't think they really do enough damage that they can stop Nekwalich, but he's making one last-minute push. The ACU doing his best to shoot enemies down below this hill, and is instead shooting the hill furiously. Nekwalich working hard on the T2 point defense. Will it get up in time to defend Nekwalich from the Tech 1 army that his ACU is already cleaning up perfectly well? Seriously, there is a time and place for point defenses, but those times and places were never utilized in this game. They are used for kiting, for stalling your opponent briefly, or to create pressure. It's a little different with team games, but in 1 vs. 1 that tends to be how it is. I know that people hate them, but you'd probably be better off building a T2 artillery rather than 2 T2 point defenses. Sure, they're ridiculously expensive, but at least they have enough range that they would be causing trouble after you built them. Like I say, there's a time and place. And it is time now for Flynn to explode. So white, so beautiful. And that's game. And that's what a typical game in Supreme Commander looks like. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching it, and I hope that I will catch you all next time.